Hello, ladies. Welcome to the Gayu Lois podcast. I'm a leading women's wellness advocate, and this podcast is all about supporting women through menopause and beyond. Today, I have with me an amazing dermatologist. Dr. Masuma Molvi isn't just a dermatologist, she's an innovator in the realm of skin and aesthetics. With over a decade of rich experience, Dr. Masuma has perfected her craft in medical and aesthetic dermatology, bringing a holistic approach to skin health that's both safe and incredibly effective. Her journey began with a medical degree from the prestigious Kasturba Medical College in Manipal, India, followed by an MD in dermatology from DY Patil Medical College in Pune, where she graduated top of her class. Dr. Masuma is not only skilled, but also deeply passionate about offering solutions that go beyond the surface. She's made a significant impact in treating autoimmune diseases, enhancing holistic skin health, advancing anti aging techniques, and pioneering non surgical methods for hair restoration and postpartum skin rehabilitation. Her philosophy is simple yet profound. She integrates cosmetic dermatology with lifestyle tweaks, stress management, and gut health restoration to create sustainable, natural results tailored to each individual's needs. Dr. Masuma truly believes in empowering her patients to find a harmonious balance for lasting health and beauty. Now, that's my kind of doctor. Welcome, Dr. Masuma. It's so wonderful to have you here today.
Thank you so much, Gayu. I'm so excited to be here as well. And this is something I'm so passionate about. I'm so happy to be speaking about this today as well.
Great. Like I said, I'm very happy to have you here. I said, we just wanted to get to know a little bit about who Dr. Masuma is before we actually dive deep into the layers.
Very beautifully introduced already. And I'm not trying to be humble, but I think so. You have kind of encompassed everything except for the fact that two things. I'm also a very avid traveler.
Wow.
And though with life, I have started to travel less, but I would like to add that. And absolutely a troubleshooter. So generally, if any issues anywhere with anybody, I kind of get drawn and have this habit of finding solutions. And that's what reflects in my work as well. So because of that. And mom of two, born and brought up in Dubai. So a Dubai baby, though I was away for 13 to 14 years, but I came back and though Dubai feels different now, but I'm still really connected as well.
Okay, amazing. Everyone is so excited about skin and dermatology because everyone wants to look and feel beautiful. But can you explain what dermatology encompasses, and your journey that that chose your where you chose to become a dermatologist?
Dermatology actually per se is never started with aesthetics. It's still a very new concept, about 15 years old or 20 years old. But dermatology per se is the medicine of treatment and diagnosis of all skin, hair, nail conditions, which would even encompass all the venereal diseases, tropical skin infections, etc. And that's how we started learning it as well. And it has multiple branches, and then we choose to specialize in whichever fellow we want to. Now, one thing is that skin is the largest organ of your body.
True.
It is affected by everything internal, everything external. It's not separate from the rest of the body. So, skin is a very important interface in diagnosis. Everything which is happening inside your body with any organ, it could be your liver, your kidney, you could have diabetes, hypertension, thyroid, anything, menopause, anything, whatever is happening will generally reflect on the skin as well. And though you always can't understand what's happening inside your body, because that would just be like some random symptoms or blood work which can get that through. But because skin is a visible organ, you tend to see, realize, walk to the doctor and get diagnosed.
Yeah.
So it's a very important interface to be a dermatologist, because we are most of the times diagnosing like 90% of the diseases and then referring ahead to whoever requires to handle it. So it's a very important physician aspect to it, not only aesthetics. And this is what actually drew me towards it, because you need to be a very good diagnostician to be a very good dermatologist. And that's actually the challenge. And everything we learn about dermatology I believe, is an exclusion. So, whatever's in the textbook, the skin never looks the same because it changes with ethnicities, with race, with culture, with lifestyle, with genetics, with which place you live in. There is so much variation that nothing fits. So, it's always experience which matters there, which again is the next challenge.
Oh, amazing. Like, I think very well said in terms of the skin is the first thing where you see the whatever's going wrong in
Yes.
your body,
Yeah.
which is, I think a lot of people tend to ignore
Yeah.
that aspect and probably just cure the superficial
Yes.
thing with skin. What are the most common skin conditions you've encountered during your practice?
As I said, it's very dynamic. So when I did start my practice, that time I was still in a very medical setup. So we used to see a lot of vitiligo, a lot of psoriasis, eczemas, and as and when when I started practicing here in Dubai about 9 to 10 years back, we started seeing diseases which were more inhabited to this place, being a hot, humid climate. There were more fungal infections. There's acne, there's rosacea, and a lot of hair loss, pigment disorders,
Mm.
etc. A lot of stress associated autoimmune conditions also started coming up as well. Some being like, eczemas and psoriasis, which are again because of, too much medicine intake, too much stress, lifestyle, and metabolic changes.
Okay. I remember both my kids are born here, and both of them had eczema.
Yes.
And I've heard from most parents, like, that the moms are like, "Oh, the kids got eczema," and I think is it that because of the weather condition that we end up getting it here?
It is one of the things which affects. See, eczema is again, it's a genetic tendency, and sometimes there is no cause to it. It's idiopathic.
Okay.
That's how we blanket it when we don't know what causes it, and that is also a very common scenario. But of course, you have to have the genetic tendency to have the eczema. But what flares it is in your hands, because if children have a lot of food intolerances, like if you have a lactose intolerance and you are consuming milk every day, it is going to cause an inflammatory response and exacerbate your eczema.
Okay.
So it again depends on where you are. Here it gets very hot and humid. So, the rashes get worse because of the sun exposure as well.
Yeah.
So a lot of, again, every patient is very individualistic. It takes 45 minutes for a consult with them to understand all these factors, and only then we can help them.
True.
Yeah.
I think that's where I think lots of don't know that's right to say, but a lot of doctors don't give that time.
Yes.
They just ask you what's your issue? Okay, I'll give you prescription for that, which we see it very often. I think, but a lot of people have started voicing against this whole half an hour or
Yeah.
15-minute slots that you get with doctors.
Yeah, I can understand that. But I think so the first one or two consults always go long.
Okay.
Yeah.
In terms of understanding skin, we know that it's got multiple layers and stuff like that. But what do these different layers actually? What's their role in maintaining skin health? What should people look after? I'm assuming all of it is very important. But then, what is the role that each of these layers play?
Of course, they have there are three main layers to the skin, and all are equally important, and they all work in unison. You can't exactly differentiate, but I can roughly tell you, like, the topmost layer is the epidermis. That's exactly what you see, and this is the layer which has the keratin. It also has the molecules to bind water. So it's important, first of all, for physical. Ensheathing over your organs. So it's got a physical barrier. It is important for hydration. And this makes the skin also important in water and electrolyte balance, thermoregulation, and also an important part of your immune system, because it helps you to secrete vitamin D. Vitamin D synthesis is dependent here, and it's like a gatekeeper. So whatever is passing through is regulated and immune responses are generated. So main thing of the skin, if I would put number one after protection, is that it is an important part of your immune system, the first interface. Coming to the second layer, which is the dermis, which is more the structural layer. It has the very hyped up collagen.
Collagen,
Yeah.
yes.
And there is a other player called the elastin, which we don't care about or
Okay.
talk about, but there is elastin as well. And both, according to me, are important. There are, of course, a lot of different types of collagen all over your body, but the two main types, 1 and 3, which are there in this layer, which are more for strengthening. And hence their important role in anti-aging, because when you lose that collagen is when you have the sag, the thinning of skin, etc. So that's more a structural role, but it also has your sweat glands, your oil glands, your hair follicles. After that comes the third layer, the hypodermis, which is also got a little bit of collagen, but mainly the subcutaneous fat. So important for insulation and thermoregulation
Okay.
as well.
So good fat, not the bad fat.
The subcutaneous
Yeah,
fat, yeah.
We all talk about skin. There's so many products available, so many, everybody talking about their own skin rituals
Yeah,
and
yeah.
routines. What does an ideal skincare routine look like for maintaining a healthy skin?
All right, it has to be very basic. Okay, I mean, technically, you need cleanse, query, exfoliate. If before this we cleanse, tone, but toner is kind of not exactly needed these days. I will explain maybe later why.
Okay.
But generally, cleanse, exfoliate if required, if your skin needs it, hydrate, protect. So you need a good cleanser, moisturizer, and sunscreen. If you have to be very basic, and I think so, 100 out of 100 people can follow this and still be okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you don't need the 20,000 steps that a lot of these
Absolutely not.
celebrities or people say, my skincare routine, and people end up buying these zillion products.
This molecules to exfoliate and not hydrate. So there has to be a balance. So once you have mastered your basic routine, then based and understood how your skin works, then based on that you can build up.
Like you said, building up. Does the skin, if I put 10 products on my skin, does the skin actually take all the 10 in? Or is there after a certain point when it says, enough, whatever you're going to put on top of me, I don't have the capability to take it in?
Absolutely, that happens. That also requires a lot of sensibility in what and how and what form are you applying, because all the preparations for skin products, we've heard, but we don't pay attention. But we hear cream, lotion, emulsion, serum, water. So you, it's just basic. I think so. Chemistry, that you can't put like a thick cream and then put a serum on top and expect that to absorb. You're actually just causing more and more occlusion. So always ingredients have to go from lighter to heavier. And in that form, yes, they can absorb, but even too much is going to eventually erode the barrier. And once the skin barrier is destroyed, then you start irritating the skin more than benefiting it.
Okay.
So, and it is complex, because again, this all also changes based on where you are, how your skin is doing, how's your hydration, um, and which part of the world you're living in. You can damage your skin while doing that. So I think so better keep it simple instead of dunking too many layers, especially in the hot and humid place we stay in. You absolutely cannot use so many layers.
In terms of how can women tailor their skincare routines based on their skin type? Now, everyone has either an oily skin, dry, or a combination, or some people, like you said, have a sensitive skin. First of all, I would say is understanding what skin type you have, and then how do you then tailor?
All right. See, if you have dry skin, if exactly the first thing starts with understanding what skin type do you have. All right. And sensitive skin by itself is less is more. And it's hard for sensitive skin people to understand what they need for that. Definitely only a dermatologist can help. At least once they need to understand that. But for everybody else, yes, even at home, they can understand how to tailor. Though I always say, see a dermatologist first, understand, let them guide you on how to use, and then you can forever then understand your skin, see how it responds to most of the ingredients, and then do it at home.
Okay.
But to begin with, you need a little bit of guidance. But if you still had to, I would always suggest one simple basic tip is that these days in the pharmacy, all the pharmaceutical companies are trying to upgrade their products. There are active ingredients in every product.
Okay.
So there'll be a wash with salicylic acid, there'll be a moisturizer with niacinamide and zinc, there'll be a sunscreen which has a lightening agent. You can't have active ingredients in all your products.
Okay.
All right. So use a gentle wash. Which can be based on your skin type. So if you have dry skin, you can use a little bit of a creamy wash. If you have combination skin, you can use a gel or a foam wash, or oily skin can also use a gel-based wash. So you can choose your preparation type, but use a normal wash without any active ingredients. Same thing for the moisturizer. Use a good moisturizer. It can be a water-based moisturizer if you have oily or combination. And if it's dry skin, again, you can use a little creamier moisturizer and a nice sunscreen.
Yeah.
All right. Sunscreen, again, the same thing. It can be for dry or oily skin, but use a normal wash, moisturizer, sunscreen. And at night, try to add your active ingredients based on your skin type.
Okay.
So if you're looking at hydration, you look at hydrating molecules like hyaluronic acid, peptides. If you're looking at, if you have acne prone skin, you want to add retinol or alpha hydroxy acids like salicylic acid or glycolic acid. Add those at night, follow it with a moisturizer.
Yeah.
And you don't have to do them every day again. I say always build to understand. So start with 2 times a week or 3 times a week.
Yeah.
So do it on like a Sunday or Thursday or Sunday, Tuesday, Thursday. And the rest of the days just moisturize and then build on your skin. This way you would have everything stays the same and you have one active ingredient at night, which you can plus or minus based on weather changes or if you travel and if your skin changes.
Okay.
This way everyone can understand their skin.
Interesting. Very, very interesting to know that. What are some of the key ingredients? You mentioned some, specifically for people with acne, if you're anti-aging, wrinkles, or, stuff like that. But what are some key ingredients to look for when you're looking at a skincare product? Are there something specific that needs to be there?
Again, it depends on your skin type. All right. I think so. Everyone is the main hype is about all the active ingredients. All right. So, when in doubt, use the active ingredients first at night and see how you feel.
Okay.
And then you can introduce them in the morning. And it depends. Like if you're looking for something for acne, you look at for active acne, it's more salicylic acid. If there's more marks, post acne marks, and you need to, have an even tone, clear up the marks. Because most of the times I get patients who are actually halfway not bothered about the acne, but the marks really bother them. So in that case, you can look at, the other AHAs like glycolic acid or mandelic acid, which can work. Niacinamide can be used. Vitamin C carefully because vitamin C preparations are sometimes irritable to the skin.
Mm.
So the percentage of the vitamin C which you're looking at matters,
Okay.
10% or 15%. And you again start using it at night to see how irritable it is.
Okay.
If you're looking at anti-aging, vitamin C, retinol, and peptides.
Okay. Amazing. It brings me to this one very important question, which I think you will be like, it's a no-brainer. A lot of people end up sleeping with makeup on.
Oh my God.
What's your take on it?
Oh my God, absolutely no. That's the last thing I would recommend. Anyways, I feel even if you have not worn your makeup, at the end of the day, you need to have your routine. Like you can skip your routine in the morning if you're that busy, but the night routine cannot be skipped. You have the day's worth of oil secretion, pollution, debris, dead cell. You have to cleanse. You have to let your skin breathe. So if you're wearing makeup, it has to be cleansed. You can wear makeup every day of the week,
Mm.
but you have to cleanse and hydrate and calm your skin down every night before you sleep. That's very, very important. And actually, it even kind of implies to men. They also need to wash their face and hydrate and sleep at night, if nothing else. And more than that, the worst thing and the commonest thing which I've seen here in Dubai is that men sleep with gel and wax in their hair
Okay.
as well, which is the same thing. Like women sleeping with makeup and men sleeping with hair wax also is the same thing. They have to wash their hair before they sleep.
Because it's probably the build-up and things like that. I have a very important question. I'm a mom of two, and I understand the importance of sunscreen. I probably never walk out without a sunscreen after going through a serious sun damage that I went through. But at what age do you start sunscreen for your children?
Children can start as early as they like, generally 6 years plus.
Okay.
All right. But sunscreen is a must in the morning, at least one application. Children are not, they cannot be that particular, but at least once in the morning for them. So you can start from 6 years old
Okay.
as well.
Okay.
Okay.
I just wanted to know that
Yeah,
in
yeah.
general. I'm just talking about skin and aging. Not that anybody wants to age, but it's a natural process. What is common changes in the skin as we age? You spoke about collagen, the
The collagen.
the collagen. Yes, I think we should call it
Yeah,
that.
it is.
That reduces, and elastin also is it's losing from your body. Apart from that, what are the changes that happen?
When you talk about aging, I'm assuming we're just talking about the face right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So it's very important to understand that's not only happening in the skin. Everything which is happening on the skin is also because of things which are underlying. So aging happens dynamically through all the layers. So the skin, then there is fascia, there is your fat pockets, then subcutaneous tissue, even bone. All of that goes through resorption and thinning as you age, and all of that shows on the face.
Mm.
So some of the things can be we can help you as dermatologists, and some of the stuff has to come through your lifestyle. So now when we are now pertaining just to skin, when it is aging, first thing which happens is thinning. Okay,
Okay.
thinning. All the layers, they thin out. So you have the same number of layers, but each layer is going thinner and thinner.
Okay.
So now the topmost layer is thin. So the protection, the barrier is less. So that's why you'll be able to see that as you age, you can see through vessels, you can see through, skin is
Okay.
thinner, you bruise easier, it gets drier because it's holding less moisture. So yeah, first thing is that. The second thing is when the structural part of the skin is thinning, that means the collagen,
Yeah.
etc., is breaking down and thinning, there is less support. Then comes the sagging, the loss in elasticity, the formation of jowls, or you feel that your entire face is drooping.
Okay.
Okay, though it has other factors also. And last is the loss in the subcutaneous fat. That's why you feel that temperature regulation also goes less. You feel cooler. Yeah,
Oversensitive. Yeah.
as
Yeah.
so
Okay.
that's how skin ages. But of course, when you come to the face, it is also affected by everything inside. For example, with aging, I'll give you a simple example because I think so. The eyes give it away the first. All right.
Okay.
So what happens with eyes when you age is that not only is the skin becoming thin and sagging, and there's bone resorption over the brow. So the support is gone. So there is hooding. That's why people
Okay.
come and they will tell me that I'm trying to put my liner. Before I could lift and I could put it completely, and now I'm not able to. I have to lift my brow. So
Yeah.
that is a bone component also,
Okay.
right? Even on the cheeks, when we've suddenly lost weight or with age, we've lost the fat pad here, the entire cheek is sagging.
Okay.
So sometimes it's only to do with the skin, and sometimes it's in unison with all the layers.
Oh, very interesting. I wanted to ask you something. I've seen a lot of people doing ice submerges. I've seen it. It's very popular in
Yeah.
the social media, and does it actually help?
Actually, I don't like to negate, but as a dermatologist, I don't like extremes of anything, even as a person. Extremes of anything, I do believe in everything cool, icing, everything needs to be like when given on skin, rather cooler than warmer any day. But ice dunking and stuff, it causes this reactionary dryness, reactionary overflow of blood on the face. Anything too much, too often, I cannot benefit you.
Okay.
Okay, again, and one size doesn't fit all. So you can do it once in a while, but I wouldn't suggest
As
every
a
day.
daily
Yeah.
practice, don't do that to your
Yeah.
skin. Okay. Coming back, how do factors like genetics, lifestyle, and environmental exposure influence skin aging? Uh, you know, Natural aging is of course there, but then there's these other external factors that affect us more.
It's everything.
Okay.
Okay, it's all the change, because let's put it this way, there's some things you can change, and some things you can't. Now the invariable stuff like your genetics you can't change, so stop bothering about it, leave it the way it is.
Okay.
But at least the factors which are in your hand, you should be aware and should be able to take care of. So I think so all these external factors is everything we need to think about. All right. Coming first with, of course, hydration,
Mm.
diet, sleep, all right, habits,
Yeah.
all this matters. In diet, it's a very known and now established theory is that increase in carbohydrate intake increases skin, accelerates the skin aging. So
Inflammation.
yes, always looking at low in carbs, have a balanced meal, but low in carbs, hydration, antioxidants. Remember one thing, whatever we give you as supplements as well, remember they all are still supplements to your diet.
Correct.
So the
Agreed.
diet comes first and then the supplement comes. So no point taking. I have people they have come with a battery of antioxidants. Okay, I'm taking C, I'm taking E. I'm like, why are you taking all of them? How much can your gut absorb? So
Yeah.
it has to be, the initial has to come from the diet, and then you just supplement. So diet being the first thing, sleep of course,
Mm.
but we should do our best
Yeah.
with that, and hydration. doesn't, I mean, I don't have to impress more upon that.
Yeah.
Now, coming to lifestyle choices, everything in moderation again. Smoking, absolute
No.
no.
I'm with
I
you on
will
that.
suggest, if you just have to, you feel like you want to feel like okay, I want to be adventurous and be like a bad boy. Like once a week, I need to do something. I will say go drink a glass of wine, but do not smoke. Internally, of course, I can't begin to explain what all it does. But okay, when we're just talking pertaining to the skin as well, it is completely shrinking your vessels. So the oxygen flow to your skin is reducing. That's why you will see that skin will be dry faster, thin out faster. The luster goes away. It becomes dull, dry. It kind of, forms this kind of a grayish hue,
Yeah.
and it's hard to reverse because it happens over time.
Yeah.
So definitely, vaping, smoking is an absolute no. Yeah.
I'm totally with you on that. From my very young age, I've done campaigns on anti-smoking. So
Yes.
to an extent that I've told my children, if I ever
As
catch them, they're like, I said, you're dead,
they-
mate. I've got a lot of knives in the house. I said, you better watch out.
yeah, because this is something in young children I have never seen before. I am treating lip pigmentation for girls as young as 18 years old
Wow.
from vaping. It's from vaping, and it's really heartbreaking, and it's hard to reverse.
Mm.
It's hard to reverse. So definitely, prevention better than cure.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think I think you can start seeing in the skin. You actually start looking so much older than your
Yeah,
age, right?
yeah. Imagine you're just cutting off oxygen. What else? Mm.
It brings us to the topic, which is the collagen.
Mm.
What is it actually, and why is it important for our skin health?
All right, see, collagen per se is a protein.
Mm.
All right. Now, it's not only there in the skin, it's there in multiple organs of your body, muscle, heart. So, skin has, and there are many types of collagen as well. Like, joint has its own type,
Yeah.
which is predominant. That same way, the skin collagen is type 1 and 3, and as I explained before, are the building blocks which hold the skin up.
Yep.
Now, with aging, sun damage, all right, diet, stress, these collagen fibers, they thin out. Not only that, they also disarray. Like, they are right now tightly compacted.
Mm.
Okay, and that's why they're holding the skin well. They disarray and disalign. So the whole idea of sun protection, hydration, good skincare, good diet is to keep that collagen well and healthy as long as it can till nature takes its course.
Okay.
Okay, that's my fundament of it. Now, the collagen can be taken orally. It
Mm.
can be applied, but the problem is collagen by itself is a very large molecule.
Okay.
Now, absorption of it is questionable. Okay, there are multiple studies, and we are still studying, and I think so we'll be studying for a very long time. Is that how much when you take actually? Of course, there is a effect. It definitely shows a difference because people immediately report in 2 to 3 months an improvement in hair growth, nails are stronger. You know how people do gelish nails and the nails
Yeah,
are
yeah.
gone, and that all improves. Skin feels better, more hydrated. We give right collagen supplements even for people with eczemas because it makes the skin soft.
Okay.
So it does work. But how long the effect stays is important because you take it for 3 months and you have to give a month's break or 2 months and then take it again.
Yes.
So it's not like you've built this for life.
Okay.
So that is because collagen by itself is a large molecule. That's why when we come to collagen supplements,
Hmm.
orally, I prefer powdered forms to oral pill
Tablet.
forms
Yeah, pill form. Yeah.
because what you genuinely need is at least 10,000 grams of collagen a day
Okay.
to show results. And that would make like this, I don't know, if this can be this big a
Bigger-
pill
Okay.
and you can't swallow it. That's why you'll see most of the brands will either have take 3 pills. I know one brand which says take 6 pills,
Yeah.
all right, which is really not possible on a daily basis.
True.
So instead of that, powder forms are good where you just put 2 scoops and mix it with whatever smoothie or water, whatever, and have it.
Okay.
So that is with the oral form. Now, the other thing which is now available is at the end, collagen is a protein. Proteins are made of amino acids.
Yeah.
So now we've started working on the more molecular form. So now we have again drinks and supplements and powders which have the amino acids.
Okay.
So they are smaller molecules. They tend to go in and absorb better.
Okay.
All right. So they can have more long lasting. They go in and then they convert. So they can have better results as well. But they tend to be a little more expensive.
Okay.
Okay. Sometimes quite more expensive than taking collagen supplements if they are actually the ones which work.
Okay.
Coming to application, uh, There's nothing like applying collagen. We are generally applying molecules like peptides.
Mm.
Okay. And because again, it's a big molecule to absorb in the skin as well. So generally, there's things for hydration, peptides. There are extracts from different things like plants and other molecules which kind of stimulate collagen secretion.
Okay.
So those are the ones which we apply.
So when we take these powdered forms or anything, we're actually taking collagen in. But what can we do for the body to naturally produce its collagen?
It's exactly what we spoke: sleep,
Like,
hydrate,
okay,
diet, stress, and habits.
okay. Is there a time post which the body says, that's it, this was the date that I was supposed to stop producing and I will stop it, or
No,
it
no,
continues till you die?
it continues. But see, skin is a dynamic organ. Okay. We are like snakes. Okay. It's not like the skin stays the same. Every 21 to 28 days, the top layer of the skin sheds and a new layer comes. So there is,
Really?
even as we are sitting, a certain amount of micro peeling is happening. Okay.
Okay.
Cells from that bottom layer come up and from top, they get thrown out. So our skin is a very hard working organ. Okay. It's continuously renewing itself. So it's possible to make this collagen all throughout, but the rate at which you make this kind of slows down. Like collagen synthesis reduces about after like 28. Okay.
Okay.
And even elastin starts to reduce around the same time. So this is when we need to up our game.
Okay.
That's why you will see that when we were younger, or we used to say, oh, before I used to do this, I used to do that, I used to still look good, this used to all be fine. Yes, but your skin was with you till then, and then you started challenging it,
Yeah.
and now the poor thing can't keep up, so help it.
Yeah.
Right. So it's around that time that you need to start improving everything to be able to support it.
What are any treatments or procedure that can help, in maintaining or increase the collagen production?
When we are talking about collagen, I think so it comes in that entire bracket of anti-aging, or what I like to call pro-aging.
Okay.
All right. So now, over the decade plus of seeing these things, um, so many treatments have come, and every treatment claims that it stimulates collagen. It everything. If you see rejuvenation, fine lines, wrinkles, tightening, firmness, every procedure says that it does this.
Yeah.
So now, which procedure suits your skin for your age, your concern? Uh, Only a dermatologist can help you with that.
Okay.
Okay. But broadly, if I had to again keep it, is two main things, two main components. One thing is the actual physical laxity of the skin. Like when you're thinking about building collagen, when you're thinking about making a change in your skin, you're looking to firm the skin. So when you're looking at skin lifting,
Yeah.
basically, all right, to improve sagging, to improve your jowls, to contour, your chin, to do, that's one set of procedures mainly which work there. And then there is another set of procedures which are more to do with skin quality. So when we talk about skin lifting, all right, there's always, of course, I work only with non-surgical, so there is always options for injectables.
Okay.
Okay, which go at the level where your collagen is and stimulate there. So of course they work better.
Okay.
All right, and then there is another set which is the non-injectable,
Hmm.
which is always the way you start.
Okay.
Okay, it's a learned, even having injectables on face is a very learned response.
Yeah.
It's, for example, Gayu, if I told you, now I'm going to put you down and I'm going to pluck your brow hair one by one, but you'd be like, what the hell? But it's threading.
Yeah.
Okay, we do it because it's a learned response. It pains, it's weird, but we are, it's a preconceived notion that it's okay.
Yeah.
The same way, when we look at injectables on the face, it has to be a learned response. So we generally don't start with that.
Okay.
Okay, but we start with the non-injectable machine-based options. In that, HIFU, it's called high intensity focused ultrasound, which is an ultrasound-based device used to stimulate your collagen,
Okay.
mainly on the lower face, which can give you a little bit of lifting effect,
Okay.
tightening effect, contouring effect. So radio frequency and ultrasound based devices generally are the first things you will start with, and then move on to the injectables, which will be how open you are to it. All right, which can be fillers, which can be thread lips, etc. Now there's a new branch called biostimulatory fillers, which don't exactly uh, lift and volumize or contour immediately. They also are injected under. They stimulate collagen and they give you your best natural result. But
Okay.
then in that case, anything which naturally stimulates collagen takes time. So it will not show an immediate result. It'll take 3 months, 6 months before you can see the results.
Okay.
So that's everything to do with lifting when you talk. That's why when a patient comes and tells me anything, I say, what are you looking? You want lifting or you want tightening?
Yeah.
Okay. Because it's hard. I told you, because we age in multiple different layers,
Yeah.
just by lifting the skin to give you the look what you had 20 years back, it's not
Yeah.
possible. Coming to the second category, it's for me, it's more important. It's called skin quality,
Mm.
where you're technically working to stimulate collagen to increase the resilience, the durability of your skin.
Okay.
Literally stimulating collagen in that second layer, which I mentioned, to give you good texture. Because with loss of collagen, skin gets thinner. You can see the vessels through. The pores become larger. It becomes crepey. So everything is about light play. When light falls and it reflects, your skin has to look plump.
Yeah.
So even if I've lifted your skin, but you've got textures, you will
Yeah.
not look good.
Okay.
So even though the concept is hard, result of this is even longer. It takes longer to
Yeah.
build with skincare being part of this, that you have to be patient and work on that either first or side by side.
Okay.
So when we talk about skin quality, we are working with there are a lot of gentle lasers which don't have that much downtime or anything harsh. They're called photofacials, which stimulate collagen,
Okay.
which work on superficial skin. We have under injectables, there are skin boosters, which
Okay.
are hyaluronic acid based injections, which go in and hydrate your skin and build your skin from down to up. And in this, now there are so many more molecules. There is collagen by itself
Yeah.
has become a skin booster injection, which can directly be injected there. If you can't get it there, you can inject it there,
Okay.
and kind of teach your skin this is what you need to secrete. There is salmon DNA. I mean, there's so many things which have come up to improve skin quality, and I'm so happy to see that the entire shift has occurred almost,
Yeah.
where people understand this and opt for this category before they go for the immediate ones.
Just talking about collagen, I think I'm a health coach. I always educate more on having bone broth as the natural
Yes.
collagen supplement rather than taking supplementation. But you mentioned for the skin you need type 1 and type 3.
Yes.
Does bone broth have that
Yes, it
type?
can.
Okay.
Yes, it's in fact one of the main things when there is hair loss. I tell them to take this. It kind of really immediately improves
Okay.
that as well. And all the natural remedies work for sure. I told you every supplement is supplement to diet.
Okay.
Okay, that little bit can be added, but you can't only rely on supplements. So you need to do your natural, little upgrade in your diet as
Okay.
well. But another thing I do also suggest always is like a food intolerance test to check that you're working hard now on yourself,
Yeah.
and you think that you're not taking the supplement because you are doing all these natural upgrades to your diet. So, okay, and you feel, okay, I'm getting my collagen, I'm getting my vitamin C, I'm getting everything. But is your gut able to absorb those nutrients? So, I always say that before making these changes, because you're investing a lot of time, effort in that kind of discipline, and a lot of faith in it as well.
True.
Right? It's like self love. It's me time for
Yeah.
people. So always start it up with a food intolerance test to see what your gut can absorb. Because you can think that now from today I need to increase the protein, and I'm having hair loss, I'm having I'm looking dull, I need to do something, I'm going to start with this high quality brown omega-3 egg.
Okay.
But what if you're intolerant to egg and you can't absorb anything from it? Then it's all in vain. So
Yeah.
do a food intolerance, then feel free to have all the natural holistic measures you can to increase.
Do you do these food intolerant tests at
I
your?
do.
Okay,
Yeah,
brilliant. That's
for
good to
sure.
know.
Yes.
It leads me to another interesting question, which I've got a big question mark on. There's a lot of products in the market, so-called plant collagen. As far as I know, collagen is something that's produced by it's an animal product.
Yes.
Whatever we get in the market. What is this plant collagen?
Extracts from Actually, a little bit of collagen can come from any molecule. Even apples, they say it comes from there, from a lot of other plant-based sources, but they are not as effective. And I don't truly, truly believe in them.
Okay.
They're just extracts. All right. But if we're looking at collagen, I think so marine
Collagen.
collagen
Yeah.
is the most effective. And if not, then bovine.
Okay.
That's what works.
Because I come from a medical background. My dad's in the pharma
Yeah.
industry, and he used to manufacture empty hard gelatin capsules, and I know that
Yes.
and gelatin is eventually bovine thing
Yes.
that they use, and then a lot of people don't realize that.
Yes.
But then this whole thing on plant collagen, and I'm like, man, what is this plant
No, no.
collagen and
See,
things
there's
like that? That's why.
always always gaps to be filled, and you fill it with something, but they don't always have to work.
Again, people say that you need to take vitamin C whenever you're taking collagen. You have it with vitamin C, that it helps in absorption of this collagen. Is that true? And what's the best time of the day to take this?
Now, it is true. You need vitamin C for synthesis. That's why it's one of the main anti-aging components. In fact, vitamin C is, by itself, it is effective, but it is this supporting role for everything, not only for this. Vitamin C is required for absorption of iron, for so many other things. You do need it.
Mm.
I prefer always in the morning empty stomach.
Okay.
Okay, in the morning, your gut is like a sponge. Whatever you put in, it absorbs first. But a lot of people these days have a lot of morning routines, uh, and they don't want to move from it. For visible, like they will have amla shots. Again, it's vitamin C,
Okay.
or they will have uh, a very new thing. One of my patient told me was a ghee coffee. Which
The
to
bullet
start,
coffee.
yeah,
Yeah.
to start with an alkaline gut. So I respect all that. So my always first recommendation is I will tell them start in the morning after breakfast. See how it does with your gut, because you can be an anxious person. You may have gastritis. You don't want to put vitamin C first thing in your abdomen and create like a hurricane,
Mm.
right? So start after breakfast. If it suits you, go before breakfast.
Okay.
If you're having something else, and that cannot be moved anywhere else in the day, have it before bedtime, at
Okay.
least 2 hours after dinner, and go to
Okay.
sleep.
Better slightly emptier so that the
Yes.
absorption is there.
Yes.
Okay. Talking about, I'm a menopause coach, and menopause and skin is another very important topic. What are the common effects of menopause on skin?
Menopause does affect a lot. And as you know, that menopause is not an event, it's a process.
Correct.
And that hits around 38 to 40. And we all will personally feel it also. I have women coming and telling me all the time, I was doing perfectly till 40. I don't know what happened at 41. Suddenly this happened.
Mm.
And that's exactly how our skin ages. Like men, they have a very gradual way of aging, and it goes slowly. So it's still gradual. There is still, no sudden changes. But for women, because of this extra process, what we have, it is a sudden change, and it's kind of disheartening
Mm.
as well. But when you are thinking about menopause, just to make it simple, the main player is the estrogen,
Mm.
which goes down. So estrogen has an important effect on collagen synthesis, on hydration. So the first things what we feel is dryness.
Yeah.
And the moment dryness sets in, remember one thing standard: every skin needs moisture, every skin needs hydration, every skin care needs a moisturizer. Anything which is hydrated is calm.
Yeah.
Anything which is dry is irritable.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what's happening. We're able to hold less moisture. Skin is thinning out, because of which the barrier becomes weaker. Something which you would not react to before, because you could be borderline reacting to it, but because your skin was strong, not that thin, well hydrated, you were able to hold the threshold, and now the threshold goes down.
Yeah.
So you will feel that before I was not allergic to this, now I'm allergic to this.
Yeah.
That all can happen.
Yeah.
Skin goes thin, so easy bruising is a problem, and healing becomes slower.
Okay.
Okay. Of course, the under the effect of less estrogen, collagen secretion is slower than before as well. So that structural component, that's why there is crepiness. There is this tissue paper appearance which starts to start coming slowly, especially over. That's why I say don't separate the skin over your hands from your face. So whatever you do for your face, also do for your hands, because we are very much focused on our face. We are always taking care of the face. So I always like the most sought after is face, second is the neck, and then third comes the hands. So I say take everything as a unit, because everything is going to age as a unit as well.
Okay.
So Whatever you do for your face, do for your neck, apply it on your hands as well. Another thing which happens is there is vitamin D secretion also really drops. So a lot of the immunity of the skin gets affected. So some infections are common.
Okay.
Dryness is there. So all the allergens are able to sit in faster.
Okay.
So I always suggest go for everything more bland, less color, less fragrance
Okay.
on the skin. Treat your skin how you would start treating it as a child when your
Newborn.
skin
Yeah,
is
yeah.
building.
Yeah, yeah.
You know how everything has a growing curve and then there is a declining
Yeah.
curve. So that's what it is.
Okay.
But if you hydrate it well,
Yeah.
okay, you will kind of be able to protect your barrier.
Are there anything that people can do? Like we both know that from 38 onwards, it kind of is the start of the journey. But is there something, like you said, if the lifestyle changes are done better from the beginning,
Yeah.
is there a way that this is manageable
For
and
sure.
avoidable?
Absolutely. That's why there are so many discrepancies. Somebody who is doing the right things, their skin is different. It speaks for itself, and somebody who isn't. So when we are making those diet changes, uh, avoiding smoking,
Yeah.
less carbs, sun protection, because sun thins out the skin the most. I told you some things like the menopause, the process is. The genetics is not in your hand,
Yeah.
but all the other variable factors which are in your hand, if you are going to follow those, you'll be able to support
Okay.
and at least slow down, because I told you collagen is still secreting, just
Yeah.
slower.
Yeah.
It's there.
Yeah, yeah. So that you can slow down the process. You
Yes.
can't ignore it completely.
As
It's
we
going
say,
to
age gracefully.
Yeah. So, okay,
Mm.
perfect. What are the specific skin concerns? You said dryness, thinning, but are there any particular areas that are affected more than other parts?
Yes. For when we talk about the face, around the mouth and around the eyes, they are in general thinner than the rest of the face. So their thinning is more.
Mm.
So people have this pulley sensation, dryness. That's why wrinkles and everything also start more around these areas. Okay, that's why they are even more sensitive. That's why the creams which we get also, the skincare is different for around the eyes and around the mouth.
Mm.
The rest of your face can still take some active molecules, but sometimes around these areas they completely react. You
Yeah.
put a vitamin C on your serum on your cheeks and you're okay. Put it on your eyes and you have a reaction.
Yeah.
So these are the two areas you need to still be very careful about. That's one thing. Other thing is neck.
Okay.
Okay, again thinner.
Mm.
And unknowingly we do a lot of I say our face is like a showpiece. We take a lot of care, nothing touches it. We sometimes don't even touch our hands to it.
Yeah.
All right, but our neck is really ignored. We are continuously, especially with these days and smartphones and stuff, the digital neck is common where we're continuously flexing it. We wear neck pieces, we put perfumes and oud and ittar, everything comes on it. And also the neck skin is thinner than that of the face, so the neck takes a lot of brunt.
Okay.
So of course I feel that around the eyes and neck they age faster.
Mm.
And hands, because we drive, there is no sun protection, it thins, it has the major effect of UV and light on it.
Okay.
So these are the three areas I feel should be taken care of more.
I know it's a little off topic, but you just spoke about UV and we spoke about gelish nails some time ago. You put your hand through this UV machine during
It's
the gelish.
horrendous. Don't get me overall. I hate gel polish.
Okay.
I would ban it if I could.
Don't look at my
Okay.
nails then.
Yeah. I have already seen them when I've entered. Okay. But it is damaging. Oh my God. See, at the end also, it is a type of keratin. Okay. It and everything about your nail plate is dead. The nail is dead, but everything around is living. You are putting a polish on it, and problem is not the polish. Of course, it's breathing less. Okay, whatever. Okay, it's growing out. But the process of removing that gel polish has taken away half your plate. It has damaged your cuticle. It has damaged your nail bed, things which cannot be reversed. I have people from the salon coming directly to my clinic after removing the gel polish. Nails are like paper. Nails are like paper, and they're saying they are burning, they are sore. I cannot even pick up things.
Okay.
That's the amount of damage is happening. On top of that, they're keeping that under the UV light. So now that is thinning more. I have young girls with pigmentation around the nail. They're concerned. Their nails have the gel polish, and they are coming and showing me their QTC. Now this is becoming pigmented, and it's a little wrinkled. It swells up and it goes back. Can you fix this? I was like, remove your polish. No, no, I can't.
Hmm.
How will I help you? And it's a process. So I said, how often do you do it? Every 8 weeks, I change it. How many? At least 4 years I'm doing it. Oh my God. So, and I said, so I'm like, do you use a sunscreen? It's like, yeah, yeah, for my face. I'm like, but your nails, you don't care about.
Mm.
How can I reverse it? So, and just to, it's a process just to get them to stop using that gelish polish is a half an hour consult.
Okay. Probably we'll have to sit
This,
another half an
yeah,
hour.
yeah, this is a different podcast by itself because just, yes, why this is so fresh in my mind is because I just went through this last evening.
Okay.
Last evening.
Um, Talking about advanced skincare treatments, like you said, like I said, I think every woman wants to always look and feel beautiful. I mean, the concept of aging and not looking as great as I know when I used to look at 20s is something that affects. And I think we spoke about it that we relate the way we look directly in the way we feel, right? What are the advanced dermatological treatments that can address aging and skin concerns?
Of course, it's a huge array, and I always will assess, examine the skin, all right, and then examine the person. Okay, based on how much you're ready to do, you have to always align your results to that.
Mm.
All right, but off the hook, I'll give you the two most common, which give the best results from the first session. All right, one is something we call microneedling radiofrequency, or MNRF, as you call. It's a combination of microneedling where there is a machine which has a disposable tip, and at a set depth, it gives you passes and creates these channels in your skin,
Okay.
so stimulating collagen. So it is creating it is created a controlled injury, so it's calling the cells around to come and heal. So
Okay.
that's why it is in spaces. And along with that, they infuse radio frequency, which again by itself is known to stimulate collagen and tightens the pores and gives more resilience to the skin. It also these channels act as a medium for mesotherapy. So like if your skin is dehydrated, you can add peptides and hyaluronic acid. If there is pigmentation, you can add lightening agents. If you have acne, you can add those agents. So this kind of acts like a holistic, and mine has always been that way. Like even if you will come to me and tell me I need to stimulate collagen, I need anti-aging, I will not look at everything else, because you will not you will not enjoy the result.
Mm.
All right. So this is one thing which can holistically work on most of the concerns of the skin. So I like to do that.
Okay.
And generally we follow it up after 2 to 4 weeks with a skin booster, which is a concoction of hyaluronic acid or sometimes amino acids, hydrating agents, vitamin C, lightening agents, extracts,
Yeah.
etc. And those are injected directly at the layer of the where the collagen synthesis is. Okay. So deep dermis, and they over there give you the plumpness. So you have caused the tightening, caused the plumpness, and you have lightened the skin. So it kind of gives a holistic result.
How long is the downtime for these things, and how long do they stay for?
Okay.
The effects.
Generally 3 days to 5 days.
Okay.
Okay. Is the downtime, it can be lesser or more, but this is the approx for any skin procedures. And generally, you got to do at least two. Every skin cycle, I told you, right? And we are like
20.
snakes. So we
Yeah.
are secreting a new layer every 3 to 4 weeks. So at least try to work on 2 or 3 skin cycles to get where you want to.
Okay.
Okay. And then you maintain.
Okay.
All right. And maintenance can be once in 6 months. We anyways want to do something for our skin. We even think, oh, I should do a facial. It's been very long.
Hmm.
But do something which works. At least this is stimulating collagen. It is taking you one step ahead. You are doing something internally, molecular wise,
Okay.
rather than a facial, which is cleanse, exfoliate, hydrate only. So once in 6 months, 2 times, max 3 times a year, at least look at it.
What are the benefits or risk of treatments like laser therapy or microneedling or chemical peels? I personally went through a chemical peel. I don't think I do a lot of things with my skin anyways, but I think that was a learning thing that guy, you just stop doing anything with your skin. It actually caused a lot of pigmentation and didn't help me. That's why I wanted to ask this things of, I'm sure people have seen benefit. That's why it's there as a procedure. What are the risks in general as well?
Right doctor, right procedure choice, and right product choice. These are three things which define your results. I understand, like as you said, you had a bad experience with the peel. I have 3 peels in mind, which at present looking at you, I can do for you, and you will
Okay.
do great. And I have 10 other which I will not.
Okay.
So once you have the understanding of what, how, when, that peel I may choose for you to do right now, I may not choose for you to do in December when your
Okay.
skin is dehydrated.
Mm.
Okay. Or when you tell me you're going for a holiday tomorrow to Maldives and I do it today for you. So again, right time. So everything has to sit correctly. All right. And then you can choose your procedure.
Okay.
This is something which is beyond the understanding of the patient. And it's better that, it is guided well.
When you say timing, is it seasonal or is it based on your lifestyle or what's happening in your life now? Okay.
Everything. Our minds are working in every direction when we are choosing treatments. It's not one thing. Actually, believe it or not, I'm actually thinking about minimum 15 factors before I choose any one treatment for you.
Okay.
Even if I am suggesting a medifacial for somebody, I've already thought about these 15 things.
I wanted to talk about again one of the topic, which is Botox. I thought,
Yes.
this conversation would be incomplete if I didn't mention Botox.
I'm more than happy to talk about it. It's my favorite.
Okay, it's your favorite. Very good. I want to know what exactly is Botox and how does it work to reduce these wrinkles?
All right. See, Botox is uh, basically it's the most studied, FDA approved, something which is clinically evidence-based medicine, based, very well studied and established product.
Okay.
So I do really like it because it's backed by science, it's backed by experience. Okay. And it's now become an advanced thing because of so many years. It's like 20 plus years old. Now, Botox is a brand name
Okay.
technically. Okay. I call it Botox too, so I don't blame anybody else. But it's like having Pampers. Like how all diapers are Pampers, that way all botulinum toxins are Botox.
Okay.
Okay.
Didn't
So,
know.
so the ingredient is the botulinum toxin. Okay. And it can be attached to different proteins, and that's what the different brands do. There is Botox, there is Xeomin, there is Dysport, there's Nabota. So, based on whatever protein they attach to, the different brands launch their own botulinum toxin. Now, this per se is a neurotoxin, neuromodulatory toxin, as I call it. It is from a bacteria, from the Clostridium bacteria.
Okay.
And we derive this toxin and then culture it to form this. It basically works on the junction. As we say, this is a treatment of the muscle. Botox has nothing to do with the skin.
Okay.
It has nothing to do with collagen.
Okay.
Okay, per se.
Mm.
Botox is treatment of the muscle. So, for example, when you're doing it for the face, there are multiple muscles. Every muscle has its important function. We know the function of every small muscle which is there. Now, when you want, this will just go and rest that muscle.
Okay.
Okay, so it is a very specific treatment where this toxin is injected in specific muscles, and there it gives rest to that muscle for 4 to 6 months because your body knows how to break it down, which
Okay.
is a good thing.
Hmm.
Everything which is temporary, everything which your body knows how to break down is good.
Yeah.
So in about 4 to 6 months, your body breaks it down, and you go back to what you were at day zero.
Okay.
You've gained that 4 to 6 months of anti-aging, of rest on your muscle, but you go back to exactly what it was. That's what the Botox treatment is. Now, what happens is that this only temporarily rests it because there is this molecule called the acetylcholine, which causes the contraction of these muscles whenever you have expressions.
Okay.
This just reduces the release of that.
Okay.
Okay. So now consider your muscle, my hand,
Mm.
and consider your skin, the clothes.
Yeah.
Every time I am expressing or flexing, all right, I'm creating creases in my clothes. That same way, whenever you are expressing, you're frowning, you're raising your brows, you're smiling, you are creating creases in your skin.
Okay.
Okay. Now, with all the other treatments we spoke about for collagen stimulation, all right, while the underlying is still active, you're going on trying to do something on top, it doesn't work.
Okay.
You need to rest the muscle. So if I want to work on my forehead lines,
Mm.
okay, the lines have come because of the muscle activity. I need to first do Botox to rest the muscle, and then I can do any of those other things like the microneedling RF or whatever I spoke about to take away those lines. And that's how you have a holistic result.
Okay.
Okay. But if you don't do that, then it's like working on a beating heart. I'm still expressing and I'm still trying to take. So the results are suboptimal. That's why I say always until your results are directly proportional to how much you're okay to do.
Okay.
Okay. Now, Botox, the entire frozen look and the
Yeah.
fear of it was because The same thing that we want it, the more units you put, the longer it will last, right?
Okay.
It's too cumbersome to do it every 4 months. So when you put more, it lasts more. And that's how the entire frozen look came up. But of course, that's completely changed. I think so 10 out of 10 patients which I get, they tell me, doc, it's okay, I'll come every 4 months, but I need to look exactly how
Yeah.
I am, you know.
Uh,
And that's exactly what, it's music to my ears. I like to listen to that. So when less units are put, all right, you are still able to have the expression, but
yeah.
without the lines.
Yeah.
And that's the beauty of it. The entire scene of Botox is changed, and now that's why it's become enjoyable.
Interesting. Like I probably my question was like when you said the muscles, I'm like, okay, will I not be able to smile?
No, put in the
That
right places, you can do everything.
okay.
All your for example, I don't like to quote that, but look at all the actresses. They all do have the Botox,
Yeah.
but they are acting. That means their expressions are so important. We can understand their expressions,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
That's exactly what it is. That's the balance we need to
Okay.
create.
Is Botox safe for everyone, or are there any particular groups of people who should completely avoid it?
It's FDA approved for 18 plus. So we'll just talk about that only.
Okay.
All right. And Botox is done for many, many different indications. When we are speaking about anti-aging or lines, wrinkles, or for brow lift, or for thinning of the nose, for jawline coating, whatever it is for, everyone can do it.
Mm.
All right. But there is just uh, pregnancy,
Okay.
lactation. We stay clear. You can. There are no studies for it. That's why we don't. But
Mm.
any kind of post cancer treat,
Yeah.
we don't. And another thing is there is a condition. It's an autoimmune condition called myasthenia gravis, in which the junction. Where this Botox is working, the target organ is going through autoimmune damage. So in that condition, there's basically in myasthenia gravis, because of this condition, there is weakness in the muscle. You can't rest a muscle which is already weak.
Okay.
So in that condition also, we stay clear of this.
Okay. Any fun or lighthearted stories you have about Botox treatment? Since you say you really like the whole thing.
Many. Actually, the funniest thing is that people tend to confuse Botox with fillers. So they will generally come in and have this entire thing where I want to lift my cheeks and I want to do this. Now let's come on, do Botox. And I'll be like, sorry, reverse. My Botox can help with fine lines and wrinkles. I cannot add volume or contour. So it's always a kind of thing to explain that there are two different components. Botox and fillers are not cousins. They are not siblings. They are not even neighbors. They
Okay.
are very, very different things. And yeah, that's one thing I always have a issue about.
Okay. Now you mentioned filler. What are fillers?
All right. Now, fillers, also popularly known as dermal fillers, it's because this is fillers can be of different molecules, but the commonest one is the hyaluronic acid fillers, for the simple reason that they can be reversed. There is an enzyme called hyaluronidase, which, in case you don't like the filler, we just put it and it dissolves.
Okay.
So they are temporary fillers.
Okay.
Now, fillers are basically molecules which go in, they stimulate collagen too, okay, but their main action is to restore volume.
Okay.
Based on the consistency of the filler, uh, they can restore volume. So it is nothing to do with only aging. Like, for example, genetically, if you have a recessed dentition
Yeah.
and you have a recessed chin,
Okay.
okay, you will have a double chin because
Mm.
of that. The moment I restore volume in your chin, your double chin area improves. That's because there is support now.
Yeah.
So that is what you use a filler for.
Okay.
Okay. If in So it's not only for aging, it's for contouring also,
Okay.
as I take it. So it can restore volume loss in aging patients, in the cheeks, in the jawline, sometimes under eye hollows, so in the tear trough, all of that. So they are gels
Okay.
generally. Yeah.
So what God didn't give you, the doctor will give you.
Absolutely.
um, how do you balance the desire for these cosmetic enhancement while still maintaining a natural look? Because I know that there's so many people who just want to look like someone and they end up doing a lot of procedures on
Yes.
themselves. There has to be some final
Absolutely.
dot line, right?
Absolutely. Anyways, under correction is key. It has to be key. The reason I give so many examples is because that's what people relate to. Like, for example, when people have hollowness under the eye and they will come and tell me, put filler, I will put, but I will undercorrect it. You can still see dark circles, you can still see a hollow, but that is natural. See, our eyes are tuned to asymmetry, our eyes are tuned to shades, to hollowness, something which is too perfect, there's nothing wrong, but you will feel kuch to something is wrong.
Yeah.
Okay, because our eyes are tuned to imperfections, because that's the natural human. So always under correct.
Mm.
Okay, and do not line chase. So don't look at your face as one.
Okay.
Okay, so don't see, oh, this one line didn't go. Arey, but your brows are doing well. You're looking hydrated. Everything is fine. Leave that line. It's
Okay.
okay. But there is still some hollowness. It's okay, because undercorrected, you look good. Imagine if I fill that entire thing up. People will ask, did you get thyroid? Did you get this? Did you get that? Because anything which is overcorrected looks forget perfection, it looks like some pathological condition.
Yeah.
So always undercorrect. That's how you keep things natural. Acceptance,
Mm.
so no line chasing. All
Mm.
right. And I always say that it's always a natural better version of you.
Mm.
So don't try to change the way you
Yeah.
look. Another thing is, always see yourself in dynamics. That means when you are at rest,
Yeah.
okay, and okay, my cheek is still looking a little flat, so I want more contour.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, but smile and then see how big it becomes.
Yeah.
Imagine if I add more contour over there, and when you're smiling, forming big apples, it
Yeah.
does not look good. Then you look like that pillow look which
Yeah.
comes. So you have to look at yourself, because you are not going to be sitting straight all day. You're going
True.
to meet people, you're going to go out, you're going to express. So look at yourself also in dynamics, and then everything will be okay.
Okay. Or just ask your husband. He'll always
Yes.
tell you look
Oh,
beautiful.
yeah. Best.
What advice would you give to someone looking for Botox for the first time?
Botox for the first time, of course, always do a test dose, because again, it's a toxin. So you need to know if you react to it or not, just the first time. All right. Know the brand which you're using.
Okay.
Always go to an experienced injector. All right. And undercorrect. The first time Botox patient, I will always tell them, tell me what you want.
Mm.
All right. But I will do what I would like. And then you come back after 10 to 14 days, because the result starts in 3 days. And in about 10 to 14 days, you get the full result.
Okay.
Come back for a touch up.
Okay.
So I will always do what I would like the first time, and then call them again in 2 weeks to fine tune based on, okay, you want more brow lift. This one line is there. Okay, I can add, but this will happen.
Okay.
So this way, you can build. There's
Okay.
always place to add.
Mm.
Don't go strong from the first time.
From a professional, insight, what are the products that you recommend? Are there any specific brands you recommend for a regular everyday skincare routine for women?
Pharmacy bought always.
Okay.
All right. And storage is very important. The reason I say pharmacy bought means, of course, the products are good. I mean, it's not sponsored, but I like Eucerin, I like Avene.
Mm.
And why I'm not able to pinpoint is because I like certain products from every different
Yeah,
brand for
agreed.
every different skin type, which I generally recommend, but generally pharmacy bought, because not only are they coming through the right distributors and dealers, they are also stored correctly. For
Okay.
example, when we're buying over like Amazon, okay, it could be in the Amazon,
Warehouse.
warehouse, and these active molecules are very temperature sensitive.
Yeah.
That's why now the concept of mini fridges at home
Yeah.
to keep your vitamin C, because they oxidize, etc., stuff like that. So that is very, very important. And also, some products are made different.
Mm.
Like, for example, you take a Cetaphil moisturizer, for example. All right, the one which is made for Dubai is more water based. It's very light. If you use the one which is in Canada, you realize that's way more
Heavy.
dense.
Yeah.
The same how there are cars and they have specs, right? Because they're made for that region. So some products are also made for that particular region. So when you buy from the pharmacy in that same region, you are getting the product as in what the doctor intended for you to have.
Okay.
That's one thing. And I think so it should be okay. Yeah.
Okay. There's again a big, hype on toxins in these, the cosmetics or any of these that we put, and there's this whole new range of toxin-free, products that have come into play. I have known a lot of people who do the skincare, which is all non-toxin and stuff like that. What is the real effect of that?
Active ingredients stay the same, all right, but of course, anything which has to go into a bottle, at least it needs to stay in that bottle and active. So there are vehicles to it, preservatives to it, which is I beg to differ. Anything which is in a jar and stays that way for 3 months has to have something to preserve it.
Okay.
So it is already not natural. So I'm beg to differ. There's nothing like organic to that. Else, in one day it will be gone.
Okay.
Okay, so aloe vera gel, whatever you take, when we use it in its innate form, you know how fast it deteriorates.
True.
So if it's going in a jar, means there's something which is keeping it that way.
Okay.
All right. And if it is not, then it's even more cause of concern because molds, etc., will tend to build, and that's not what you want on your skin.
Okay.
Another thing is the quantification. When we are using products from the pharmacy, which have these have gone through a lot of studies,
Yeah.
they've gone through clinical trials, they've gone through approvals. Okay, and after that only they have come. So imagine these products are already, for example, you take any product which is there in a pharmacy in Dubai.
Okay.
Okay, they've been manufactured somewhere. That facility is uh, was checked, it's monitored, goes through regular monitoring. Then the bottling happened. Then when it left their country, it was checked. When it came into our country, the DHA, you have to be registered with the DHA also
Yeah.
to be able to bring these products in, and with Dubai municipality. So they go through multiple checks. So they are top of their game.
Okay.
That's why they are a little higher price than the rest also. So there is that much importance given to that bottling. I have at least that's backed again by evidence.
Yeah.
So I have, and they have quantified all their ingredients behind.
True.
So something which I can quantify, I trust in. Anything which comes in a jar. Now you think 10 grams of shea butter is okay in this, but who is there to check that this is what is required for this particular skin type in this heat, in this form?
Yeah.
All right. So again, I cannot quantify that. So I will never suggest that
Okay.
again.
What resources or professional guidance should women seek to stay informed? Of course, meeting a dermatologist is always important, but is there anything else that women should do to be more knowledgeable about skin and these different so-called fads that are happening?
I'm sorry, I don't have any other. Go to your dermatologist. It has to start from there, and that's where you will get your the streamline approach to it, because especially the internet can be very overwhelming. They and I tell everybody, do not confuse your Google knowledge with my medical degree, because it's literally I'm competing with the internet for the internet doesn't it doesn't have to reaffirm its knowledge, but I have to,
Yeah.
because all the questions asked to me are through that. Okay, they give generalized information, it's not specific to you,
True.
while I do the specific consult. All right, so I think so it has to begin and end there.
So that don't experiment with your skin.
Yeah.
How can listeners connect with you, or learn more about your practice, or try one of these amazing treatments that you've actually mentioned?
I am a specialist dermatologist based here in Dubai, and I head the clinic called Derma Vogue. It's in Jumeirah 3 on Jumeirah Beach Road. I can share my details with you, and I'm more than happy, because patients for me are like it's where my soul lies. I can be at, if I didn't have kids, I wouldn't go home. Like I can be at my workplace all day. So yeah, that's exactly where you'll find me. We do have an Insta page, and the website is going through reform, so that will be up again in a
Okay.
while, and I'm always there.
Amazing. Before we go, we've got a special segment. We call it the 1%.
Okay.
This podcast, right? It often focuses 99% of the conversation and information on women.
Okay.
It's all about women. But we know that men are a part of our lives too.
Absolutely.
Um,
It's mean you only gave them 1%.
Since 19% we're talking women, we'll give you that 1%. Yeah. So, Dr. Masuma, can you leave our listeners with your 1% advice for the men in their lives? What can men do better to understand and support women overall, in their journey of their life?
First of all, they need to stop comparing themselves to women. We are total different beings. We have a different organ, a whole set of hormones which we go through. So everything about us is very dynamic. Everything happens gradually for you guys, and for us, everything is happening in sudden bouts.
Yeah.
Understand that there's only 1 week of the month where our system is actually calm, or else 7 days of bleeding, pre syndrome, post syndrome.
True.
We are just adjusting. Imagine happening this every month. So it's going through a lot of changes. So you need to understand that. I think so. If that concept is understood, that first half of our life, our reproductive system is building always to harbor a new life,
Yeah.
and after that, it's busy shutting down from it, which is a really hard process, which leaves us confused also. And the effect what we have, we are ourselves trying to understand what's happening. All you can do is understand that we are trying to understand and support.
Yeah.
That's it.
Amazing. I think I
Yeah.
love that 1% advice for the men. That's a wrap for today's episode. I hope you all enjoyed this conversation. I came to know a lot about new things. Botox is a brand, guys, not the product. If you enjoyed this episode, please share it with everybody. And thanks for joining us. And until next time, menopause, why pause? Let's play.